You bought a bag of frozen strawberries last week. The front of the bag shows bright red, perfect berries glistening with frost. Looks farm fresh, right? Flip that bag over. Read the fine print. Product of China, Chile, and Mexico. 3 countries for 1 bag of strawberries. That is not farm to freezer freshness. That is a logistical shell game designed to cut costs and maximize profit at your expense. Americans spend over $6 billion a year on frozen fruit. It is one of the fastest growing categories in the grocery aisle, and the industry knows it. The average family buys frozen fruit at least twice a month, trusting the bags in their freezer to deliver nutrition, convenience, and real ingredients. But behind the farm fresh imagery and health forward marketing, the industry has quietly replaced quality with chemistry, real sourcing with spreadsheet optimization, and actual fruit with something that barely qualifies. I spent over 40 hours auditing the most popular frozen fruit brands on the shelf, reading every ingredient label, tracing every sourcing claim, and digging into recall databases. The results were not what I expected. 6 of the most popular brands failed the test, but 3 passed with flying colors, and 1 of them costs less than you would think. Here is how the frozen fruit industry actually works. The gold standard is a process called IQF, which stands for individually quick frozen. The idea is simple. You pick fruit at peak ripeness, wash it, and blast freeze each piece individually within hours of harvest. When done correctly, IQF locks in nutrients, flavor, and texture. It is the closest thing to fresh fruit you can get from a freezer. But here's the problem. Real IQF processing from a single high-quality source costs money. We are talking $3 to $5 per pound at the farm level for premium strawberries. So what do the big brands do? They buy last season's surplus and off-grade fruit from international brokers who aggregate product from China, Chile, Argentina, and Mexico. This fruit gets shipped frozen across oceans, thawed at a domestic facility for repackaging, and then refrozen for your grocery store shelf. That thaw and refreeze cycle is the industry's dirty secret. Every time fruit thaws and refreezes, cell walls break down, nutrients degrade, and texture turns to mush. To compensate, brands add citric acid to preserve color, natural flavors to simulate the taste that processing destroyed, and sugar to mask the blandness of fruit that was never great to begin with. The FDA allows all of this. As long as the primary ingredient is technically fruit, it qualifies as frozen fruit. There is no regulation on how many times the product can be thawed and refrozen. There is no standard requiring single origin sourcing. And there is no rule against adding flavors to a bag that says just fruit on the front. The Skip List brand one. Dole Dole is one of the most recognized names in frozen fruit, and that is exactly what they are banking on. The brand recognition alone does most of the selling before a consumer ever reads the back of the bag. Pick up their Tropical Gold frozen pineapple chunks. The front of the bag says all natural fruit. Flip it over. The sourcing reads product of Costa Rica, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand. 4 countries for 1 bag of pineapple. That is not quality control. That is cost optimization disguised as tropical variety. Several of their fruit blends also list citric acid and natural flavors. 2 ingredients that have absolutely no business being in a bag that should contain nothing but fruit. Brand 2, Great Value Walmart store brand, is the budget king of frozen fruit, and the price tells you everything you need to know. Their mixed berry blend sources from Chile, China, and the United States simultaneously. In 2016, frozen strawberries sold under the Great Value label were linked to a hepatitis A outbreak that sickened dozens of consumers across multiple states. The FDA traced the contamination back to fruit sourced from an Egyptian supplier. The recall affected tens of thousands of bags already sitting in home freezers. When your supply chain stretches across 4 continents and passes through that many hands, quality control becomes a fantasy. Brand 3, Kroger's private label frozen fruit follows the exact same industry playbook. Multi-country sourcing appears across nearly every SKU in their freezer section. Their frozen strawberry bags list product of Mexico, Chile, and the United States. Grab their blueberry pomegranate blend and you will find citric acid and natural flavors sitting right alongside the fruit. The front label says no sugar added, which is technically true, but adding natural flavors to boost sweetness perception is the same trick played through a different loophole. Brand 4, Market Pantry targets Market Pantry. Frozen fruit sits right in the budget tier next to Great Value, competing purely on price. Their triple berry blend sources from Chile, China, and Canada. But the issue here goes beyond geography. Budget frozen fruit from multiple origins often sits in centralized cold storage for months before it ever gets repackaged for the retail shelf. That extended storage time means more ice crystal formation inside every single berry, more cell wall damage with every temperature fluctuation, and more nutrient loss by the time it reaches your kitchen. You are paying for fruit that has been steadily declining in quality since the day it was harvested. Brand 5, Sunrise Growers. You might not recognize the name Sunrise Growers, but you have almost certainly eaten their fruit. They are one of the largest frozen fruit suppliers in North America, quietly packaging product for dozens of retail store brands you see on shelves every day. In 2023, Sunrise Growers issued a massive recall, covering well over 100 individual products across multiple major retailers due to potential hepatitis A contamination. The source was traced to strawberries harvested in Baja California, Mexico. This single recall event affected brands across grocery chains nationwide. When one supplier controls this much of the frozen fruit market and cuts corners on sourcing oversight, the contamination risk does not stay contained. It multiplies across every single brand they touch. Brand 6, Welch's. Welch's built their entire reputation on grape juice, but their frozen fruit line tells a very different story. Pick up their frozen mixed fruit blend and read the ingredient panel. You will find sugar and natural flavors listed right there in plain text. This is a bag of fruit that needs added sugar to taste like fruit. Take a moment and read that again. They are selling you frozen fruit so far removed from its original form that it requires sweetening just to be palatable. The Welch's name carries decades of deep consumer trust built on juice marketing and nostalgic branding, but the frozen fruit aisle is a completely different product category, and the ingredient list proves it beyond any doubt. You do not need a laboratory to audit your frozen fruit. You need a white plate and about 15 minutes. Take a handful of frozen fruit out of the bag and set it on the plate. Let it thaw at room temperature. Now look at what you have. Real high quality frozen fruit will thaw into recognizable intact pieces sitting in a small pool of natural juice. The color should be deep and consistent. The fruit should hold its shape. You should be able to pick up a single blueberry or strawberry half and it still looks like what it is. Low quality frozen fruit tells a different story entirely. It will collapse into a mushy, pale puddle within minutes. The liquid will look watery or slightly syrupy rather than like natural fruit juice. The fruit pieces will be broken, irregular, and disintegrating at the edges. Some may have an off color or grayish tint that no fresh berry would ever display. That is the visible damage from multiple thaw-refreeze cycles and months of cold storage degradation. Then check the bag itself, open it wide, and look inside. If you see large clumps of ice or heavy frost crystals coating everything, that fruit has been temperature abused somewhere along the supply chain. It was stored too long, transported improperly, or refrozen after partially thawing. A good frozen fruit should pour freely from the bag with minimally frost and zero clumping. The Real List, Brand 1, Stallbush Island Farms. Stallbush is a family-owned farm based in Corvallis, Oregon, and they have been growing and freezing their own fruit on the same exact property since 1985. This is not a brand that buys from overseas brokers or aggregates surplus from mystery origins. They grow it, pick it, and IQF, freeze it all within hours, right there on their own land. Every single bag is single origin and single ingredient. Their frozen strawberries list one ingredient, strawberries. Their blueberries list one ingredient, blueberries. No citric acid, no natural flavors, no sugar. Stallbush also runs a certified zero-waste operation, converting all crop residue into renewable biogas energy that powers their own facilities. A 16-ounce bag runs around $4.50, which is barely more than the budget brands sourcing from 3 different countries. Brand 2, Wyman's has been harvesting wild blueberries in Maine since 1874. That is more than 150 years of growing the same wild, low-bush blueberries that thrive naturally in Maine's acidic glacial soil. These wild blueberries are smaller than the cultivated high-bush varieties you see from most commercial farms, but they pack roughly twice the antioxidant density per serving. Wyman's freezes them using IQF processing within 24 hours of harvest and ships every bag with exactly one ingredient on the label, wild blueberries. No additives, no fillers, no sourcing from overseas. A 15-ounce bag costs around $5, and given the nutrient density per dollar, it is genuinely one of the best values in the entire frozen fruit aisle. Brand 3, Cascadian Farm. Organic Cascadian Farm started as a small organic farm in the Cascade Mountains of Washington State back in 1972. They were certified organic years before the USDA organic program even existed. Their frozen fruit line uses certified organic fruit sourced primarily from domestic and regional farms, and every single product carries the USDA organic seal. Their frozen blueberries, strawberries, and mixed berry blends all list only the fruit itself on the ingredient panel. No added sugar, no natural flavors, no citric acid. Now, they are currently owned by General Mills, and that does give some consumers pause. But the ingredient lists have remained clean, the organic certification is independently verified each year, and the sourcing stays transparent. A 10-ounce bag runs about $3.79, making it one of the most accessible premium frozen fruit options on the entire market. 6 of the most popular frozen fruit brands in America are selling you a product that has been sourced from multiple countries, thawed, refrozen, and chemically enhanced to look and taste like something it is not. 3 brands prove that it is entirely possible to sell real, single ingredient, honestly sourced frozen fruit at a price that competes directly with the imposters. The difference is not luck and it is not scale. It is a choice these companies make every single day. Some choose to invest in real farming, honest sourcing, and transparent labeling because they believe the consumer deserves better. Others choose to optimize a spreadsheet, exploit every legal loophole available, and rely on the simple fact that most consumers will never take 5 seconds to flip the bag over and read what is actually inside. Now you know better. Check your freezer tonight. Read every ingredient list. Run the thaw test on whatever is in there right now. Your health is not a commodity for these corporations to optimize. The Food Tell, because you have the right to know the truth. Subscribe for more.